In a world where a gaming PC will certainly cost you £1,000, could easily cost you £2,000 and may well cost you £4,000, NZXT is working with Kit Guru to make your life better. In this promotional event we are giving away 2 pre-built gaming PCs from the NZXT Player series. If you fancy winning either an NZXT Player 2 or an NZXT Player 3 Prime, you need to sit down, pay attention and watch this video closely. We're going to start with the cheaper of the 2 PCs, the NZXT Player 2, which sells here in the UK for £15.99. Let's round it up for ease of speech, £1,600. The inner box the PC is actually packaged in is the case box, the NZXT H5 Elite, and then we have some exterior packaging and then an outer box. The PC itself, as you can see, has a foam pack inside. We'll come to that in a moment. Inside the packaging we have spare power supply cables, i.e. the cables that have not been used. Clearly an NZXT power supply, 650 watts and bronze rated. A UK power cord. Various accessories from the case and the motherboard. A few bits and pieces of documentation to do a warranty. And then some of the other documentation which gives you the essence of what this PC consists of. So we have an MSI graphics card booklet, an MSI motherboard booklet, an NZXT Kraken 120 CPU cooler instruction set, an NZXT H5 Elite instruction, and then this card is to do with the NZXT power supply. Because this PC is going to be going to a lucky winner, I'm not going to be the usual rough and ready Leo when I remove panels. I'm going to be gentle. Also, I'm not going to perform any peels because it's going to be packed up when I've finished and shipped off. So we have the glass side panel, complete with film, which I'm leaving alone. And here we have a foam pack. And a second foam pack to give decent support to the graphics card. We'll take a quick tour of the build just to get a flavour for the job that NZXT has done before we turn the PC on. First impressions are perfectly favourable. In the right hand side of the case we can see the NZXT C650 power supply and the cabling is neat and tidy. In the main compartment, the motherboard in this particular example is an MSI Mag B550 Tomahawk Wi-Fi. The memory is 16GB of T-Force Delta RGB DDR4 3200 in dual channel, and the SSD under the heatsink is a 1TB Kingston NV2 PCI Express Gen 4. It is worth noting the 120mm AIO cooler is in the rear position. In the front we have 2 fans seemingly trying to draw air through the glass. However, we do have air intakes here at the side. This is a mid-spec PC running on an AMD Ryzen 5, so that level of cooling and airflow ought to be fine, but obviously we'll find out shortly. In the lower compartment we have another fan bringing air in through the floor, which should help to feed cooling air to the graphics card. In this instance we have an MSI GeForce RTX 4070 Ventus 3X 12G OC, i.e. a triple fan model. It looks like NZXT's done a perfectly decent job with the configuration of this PC. So let's start it up, admire the illumination, and then we'll see how the Player 2 performs. Naturally enough, an NZXT PC comes with NZXT CAM software, so we can see the hardware inside the Player 2. NZXT's CAM includes a hardware monitoring function, but we'll use HWinfo to drill into the clock speeds and power draw of the Ryzen 5 5600X, where we see it running at 4.25 GHz at just under 80 watts. Temperatures are icy cool. Admittedly, I have the side glass removed to give you a better view of the PC, but it's fairly obvious it doesn't need a lot of airflow to keep this processor under control. The final score's just shy of 11,000 points, and we can expect this processor to be good for gaming. But of course we have to check that out. So we're looking here at Cyberpunk 2077, we have a high preset, and we're at 1440p resolution. We have the glass panel in place so we can check thermals as well as gameplay performance. The frame rates look lovely and smooth. The graphics core in the RTX 4070 running at 2.75 GHz, temperature 65 Celsius. And we can see the result of the benchmark is an impressive above 80 FPS on average. And now let's go out on a limb. Let's take full advantage of the RTX 4070 graphics and enable ray tracing. On medium, let's see what kind of frame rate we get this time. With ray tracing on, we can see some impressive visuals. With a combination of ray tracing and DLSS, we have an average of 75 frames a second. And let's take a quick look at Far Cry 6 at 1440p, and we're going to select Ultra Image Quality. The average frame rate's up around 125 FPS. Both the CPU and GPU are working fairly hard, but the PC is nice and quiet. And that is an impressive result. The average came out at 109 FPS, however the minimum 77. So eminently playable. And let's finish with a quick run of 3D Mark Time Spy. A decent overall score, and as expected the RTX 4060 scores higher in the graphics side of things than the Ryzen 5 5600X on the CPU side of things. No surprises there. And now you have numbers that you can compare against your own PC. We've been rather impressed with the NZXT Player too. So what happens if we move up from this £1,600 PC to something considerably more expensive? How about the NZXT Player 3 Prime? £3,999 of the finest PC gaming hardware, and it could be yours for nothing. This is a very high-end PC built into an NZXT H9 Elite case. The processor is an Intel Core i9-13900K, the liquid cooler on the processor, an NZXT Kraken 280 RGB Elite. Memory, we've got 4 sticks of T-Force Delta RGB, it's DDR5 6000, and in total we have 64 gigabytes. The motherboard is a Gigabyte Z790 UDAX. We have two 1TB M.2 SSDs. We're expecting the Solidigm model. We did not expect to also have a Kingston SSD. The graphics card is where the bulk of the money's been spent. It's a PNY GeForce RTX 4090 Accelerate with 24 gigabytes of GDDR6X memory, and the power supply is a Gigabyte ultra durable 1000 watt gold rated. There's plenty of cabling in the right hand compartment next to the power supply. NZXT has added a USB hub, and we also have an RGB controller. Most of it's strapped down, some of it's just hidden behind the cover. In addition to the case fans supplied as stock, NZXT's added 3 F120 RGB duos, and we have the 2 fans on the Kraken AIO. So in total we have 9 fans. The side and floor are intake, the roof and rear exhaust. Let's see how the Player 3 Prime performs, starting with a simple CPU test. Cinebench R23, we get a massive score of 39,353 points. In this test, the processor is running at 5.5 GHz on the P cores. It's drawing a huge 295 watts and bouncing off its thermal limit of 100 Celsius. And we can hear the cooling system responding to this thermal load. Huge performance, requires a lot of power, and results in a lot of heat. Let's take a look at those PNY RTX 4090 Accelerate graphics in action. We're running 3D Mark Time Spy, just as we did on the Player 2, and we can see the graphics are running at 2.75 GHz, and the board power is 368 watts. This is very serious hardware. We have the side panel removed from the case. The temperature is 65 Celsius. We did some other testing and it doesn't make much difference having the panel on or off. The final score is absolutely huge, both for the graphics and the CPU. Overall score just above 34,000 points. Moving on to games. In Far Cry 6 we're now running at 4K rather than 1440p. Still at ultra preset quality, and we can see the game hurtling along with an average of 140 FPS and a minimum of 119 FPS. That's impressive work by the Player 3 Prime. So let's take a look at Cyberpunk 2077 and dive into ray tracing and DLSS. In our first run, the preset is 4K Ultra. We're not using ray tracing, and the average frame rate is just under 86 FPS. Then we switch to 4K Ultra ray tracing. This automatically enables DLSS. If we disable DLSS, the settings show up as custom, so it's a little confusing. With these settings, ray tracing on but no DLSS, the average drops to just over 41 FPS. For our final test run at 4K Ultra with ray tracing and DLSS, just look at the frame rate zipping along. The average rate is just under 104 FPS. That's truly impressive. And that completes my rundown of the NZXT Player 2 and Player 3 Prime gaming PCs. And obviously you're dying to know, how do you go about winning one of these two PCs for absolutely no cost whatsoever. We'll have information below this video and we'll have full details over on kitguru.net, but here's the breakdown. For the Player 2 competition, and this is for people who hate Facebook, we're going to have an email address over on kitguru.net specifically for this competition, and you have to answer a question. That question is, what is the expected frame rate of the Player 2 system in Grand Theft Auto 5 at 1440p? Now you might think that's a potluck, just take a guess kind of thing. It's not. Head to NZXT's webpage for this Player 2 system and they have some hints on that very webpage that will guide you along your way. Follow the link below this video and on the kitguru.net webpage, and that will take you over to KitGuru's page on Facebook. Yes, I know you don't like Facebook. We've been there for a long time. We have a good following, so you'll have to bear with us. And over there you'll find the full details of how you can enter to win the £4,000 NZXT Player 3 Prime gaming PC. To finish with a word of potential bad news, these competitions are open to people who have an address in the mainland UK. The systems have to be shipped by NZXT and they'll only do that in the mainland UK. That's the end of this video, but it's the start of your chance to win one of these two PCs. And I wish you the very best of luck.